Hello and welcome to DNA Empowerment Podcast. My name is Danielle Nicole Anderson. I am here with my brand new co-host and really close friend and buddy, Lyndsy Rae Porter.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you for joining us. I want to talk a little bit about the change of intention on this podcast from what it used to be. If I have any followers that used to listen to the podcast, there are going to be some similar things to before because it's still me and I'm still going to be talking about all the same things, demystifying the mystical, self-empowerment, the things that I really believe in, the individuation process, but I'm going to be doing it instead of interviewing other people, which is much more comfortable for me, if I'm really honest. I am going to be giving an astrology forecast of the week ahead. So I have been doing videos on TikTok sporadically about some of these things as they come up. And now I'm going to attempt to commit to giving a weekly forecast as to what's coming up. And then Lyndsy is here with me because it's very, very hard for me as a projector. For those of you who don't know what that is, it is my design type in a system called human design to just talk and not have another person to plug into. So Lyndsy is here for me to plug into and be my support person, really. And she is also going to remind me when I'm talking about things that, although they are things that I know really well, because I've literally been studying all of these things my entire life.
And I have not,
Right.
but I really appreciate them and they mean a lot to me, just like a lot of other women friends of ours. But there are some times where I'm just like, and I'm again, the more you listen, the more you're like, okay, the 10th house. Okay, I remember. So you start to catch on to things, but that's only, after a while. And I love that you're able to speak so fluidly, but it is really helpful to, pause in the moment when it makes sense and when it's relevant, because a lot of times I'm like, oh yeah, I got to look that up again. And then I'm like, wait, what was I going to look up again? So just to like be able to be here to, while we're in the moment, while it's important, while it's meaningful, like, hey, what is that piece again? So I'm going to just try and listen with the ears of the all and the people that might not, be up to date or well versed, and try and catch those, and also chime in with silly nonsense because it makes it more fun.
It makes it so much more fun. And you and I have so many shared passions that are relevant to these conversations
Mm-hmm.
that I'm sure we will go off on tangents and hopefully we don't spear too far into the ethers, but we'll try to pull each other back when we do. And I do greatly appreciate that because I know that I tend to forget that I'm talking about concepts that not everybody studies like I study.
Mm-hmm.
So interruptions are so welcome.
Yeah, but you're
And
really good at bringing people into your world and sharing it, and you do break it down for the most part in a very bite-sized way that makes it make sense, and it's important for you to go off and challenge the new listener to learn new things, new words and concepts, because I'm just coming out of like babyhood, not me personally raising babies.
I knew
um
what you meant, but yeah,
I know, but
not.
just in case she was just a baby. So it feels good to me to like finally have my autonomy back a bit, and to hear big words that I feel like I was just like singing Sesame Street or Paw Patrol. Like I literally am walking out of that, so I'm like, oh yes, adult talk again. So it's like, nice, you've been steeped in this and you're sharing it with so many people that are busy, that aren't able to jump into this but really need this, and it helps. So yeah, thank you for breaking it down and making it something that is tangible for all of us to be able to have. So I'm here for it.
I'm so happy. You know what? That's a good segue. We are going to soon, very soon, get into the astrology of the week. But since it's our first episode together, can you do a little introduction of yourself, who you are?
Yeah.
Who is Lyndsy Rae
um
Porter in this
it's
moment?
a great question. I've been trying to figure it out for a long time. um so I will share that this is probably my least favorite question, but it's so important, right? It's just one of those weird questions because it's like, I feel like this is something we spend our whole lives like, it's like, for me, it's like explaining an abstract painting, and you're like, so I will do my best. I am many things. First and foremost, I am somebody who's always trying to be, my like life goal is trying to be the bridge of communication for people that don't have a voice, whether that's children, somebody who doesn't speak a particular language. That's my main goal for being here and who I am. So I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I've lived here mostly my whole life, except for living in the south of France for a little bit and then in West Africa for a little bit. I was basically, I was doing many things over there, but mostly just studying the French language and culture. So I have a degree in French and international studies. I have a certification in advanced master gardening. So I love getting my hands in the earth and the soil, teaching other people how to garden and how to create a space that feels important to them, that gets them out there, right? Like gardening can be so overwhelming. So just teaching people that, and I am the gardener at Firefly Coffee House, which everything there, if you guys know this place, is grown in a little bucket of dirt. And I just hope that all humans know that if that crazy wild garden can grow in tiny little buckets of dirt, then so can we. I love bridging the gap between humanity and plant life and biology. I think it's important that we find truth in Mother Nature, who's been at this for a very long time, and Mama knows. And that segues to another voice that's really important for me to help the world here, is for mothers and mamas and women. Very, very important to me. So yeah, and I'm a singer in with my husband, and I are in a band, a musician. I play the banjo, and I'm a mother of three children, a stepmama to my oldest, Rain, who's 16, and Oliver and Rue, who are 8 and 5. So I'm like free, guys. Like I was in the baby stage. That's what I was trying to say for a long time, but I'm like, I'm out of the like not sleeping, I'm like, I'm here with you guys right now. I bribed them with Pokemon cards and Halloween candy, and I'm here. Oh, and I homeschool my kids, and that's another important piece right now. I'm many things, but I'm a work in progress, and I'm a friend of Danielle's, and I'm a friend of all who are listening, I'm sure, because if you know Danielle, you're a friend of mine. So
You and I have, and as you're talking, I've known you for almost 10 years, I think, which is really, really crazy to think about. And we are almost 10 years apart in age to the day, almost to the, within a couple
oh
of
yeah,
each other.
hey, we've now known each other for as long as we are apart. That's wild. Huh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's crazy. So anyway, I'm very excited. When you and I talk with each other, and as we have ever since the first time that we actually got together one-on-one in Pint Slice, which is a pizza restaurant downtown Fort Wayne, we just can't stop. We just go and go and go.
Yeah. Time disappears.
And you will have a grounding effect on me. So when I am nervous, I get around you and I'm no longer nervous. And it's really beautiful and lovely.
I love that.
And I could geek out all day on the ways that our astrology speaks to that. I'm not going to right now, but maybe at some point I will. But yeah, so this transition to doing the podcast this way is very scary for me, because the way that I did it before, where I was interviewing other people, is very easy for me.
Yeah.
And because as a projector, I am here for the other. So plugging into another person and asking them questions is my strong suit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can respond based on the way that I interact with them as a projector. And it's very, very easy. To be speaking about something that is coming from my own creativity, which is this astrology practice that I have,
Mhm.
is really, really anxiety inducing because I have, people would likely be surprised to hear this, but I creative self-expression is really, really hard for me.
Mhm.
I have Saturn in Leo, which is Saturn is what's hard, what you have to work hard at, where you have blocks in
Mhm.
Leo, which is the sign of creative self-expression.
Okay.
And it's in my 12th house, which 12th house astrology, it's what's hidden deep inside of me. I can't access it with my conscious mind easily or my conscious self easily. And so even though I have been a performer for lots of my life, all of that performance has been scripted, whether it's other people's songs, it's a script that someone else has written. It doesn't require me to pull something brand new out of myself and deliver
Mhm.
it. And so I'm really nervous. And also I believe in this stuff. And so I'm doing it. And I also know I have learned throughout my life that moving in the direction of what I'm afraid of is the way for me to expand and to achieve all the things that I'm meant to do in this life.
Mhm. Well, let me ask you this. I'm just curious. I'm imagining that I'm in my car driving down the road, and I'm wondering what things do you do? Not that this is what we're here for. So just in a nutshell, like, so when you're feeling nervous and uncomfortable, what is your go-to thing to just help you center again
The very
and
first thing
feel
is
brave?
the very first thing is I get out of my head.
How do you do that?
I shift my point of awareness from up inside of my mind down into my belly or into my chest or even into my pelvic bowl area, so that my center of awareness is lower. And I will say that I have many, many years of practicing detaching from my thoughts under my belt. And it wasn't always as easy as it is now.
So do
And
you think that a lot of that it's from like practicing Kundalini yoga or
yeah,
meditation or a combination
the
or
combination of a lot of things. So my practices over the years have been Kundalini yoga for 5 or 6 years now. Um, I'm letting my freak flag fly here, guys. Ceremonial magic. I have a ceremonial magic practice. Most people are gonna be like, what the hell is that? Um, if you want to know, Danielle at DNAempowerment.com. I will share that with you. Maybe at some point we'll get into that on here. I'm probably going to start teaching it at some point because why the fuck not? Um, the people that already think I'm weird, they're not listening, or maybe they are just so that they can like make fun of me. I don't know. But it's all right. It's been my whole life, so I'm like embracing.
clearly, yeah, they're coming here for some reason. So
So
it's
that practice
hungry for
specifically, it strengthens the various aspects of the psyche to make them the ones that are maybe hidden that I don't have as much access to, more prominent in my conscious awareness.
Mhm.
It brings balance to all the different aspects of psyche. So,
Yeah.
among many
It's
things.
it's cool to hear. I know that everybody has a different way of, different methodologies that they lean into to just like remind to recenter them.
Yeah.
So I always like asking my women in my world, like, hey, what makes you like go back to your badassery and get you out of your head.
And
So
ultimately, like the other thing is just applying those things a number of years ago when I was, people that know my story, I was left as a single mom 10 years ago, with 5 kids under 11.
mhm.
And then was in the court system for a very long time, defending child support and defending my right to continue to not work outside of the house and be the stay-at-home parent of these 5 kids that I had been prior to,
Yeah.
because that has been a priority to me. Um, and different people have different priorities. There was no there anyway. So I had got to a point, it was over a number of years that I was locked into that system. And I had gotten to a point where it was like, I have to detach from the thought loops. And nothing can be more important in my life than when my mind starts spinning for me to not detach from it. And so it was like a constant, every day, all day long meditation. And by that, I mean making the decision that nothing else was going to be more important than that. There was no thought form that I could cling to that was more important than the detachment from thought form entirely. And it's not like I made that decision and it instantly happened, but when you are in meditation, and whether that is just various different forms of meditation, or whether that is a practice like Kundalini yoga, where within it you continue to bring your mind back, you bring your mind back, you bring your mind back over and over. It was that throughout the day. Whenever my mind would go into these thoughts about worry or fear or victimhood, and it doesn't matter how much of it was quote unquote real and justifiable.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like there was a power for me in just learning what an ephemeral thought is. An ephemeral thought is the monkey brain, the monkey mind, just trying to, in learning what the difference is between, I just had a conversation this morning with my Buddhist friend. And so the ephemeral thoughts are I need to, when you're trying to meditate or clear your mind. Oh, tonight for dinner, I'm going to cook. Oh, wait a second. No, let's get back to so there's like, in knowing the difference between the soul who's recognizing that the monkey brain's kicking in the ephemeral thoughts, and then the soul is the one who's like, hey, could any chance you could come back here? It's kind of like the mother for me. I imagine it as the mother, the soul. So even just
Bring it back.
that, knowing that I am not my thoughts, that made me feel powerful, because I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm a bottle of muck. Like, I can't believe I thought that. And it's like, oh, that's not me. That's holy too. Cause it's like, you're scared about that. I need to mother that part of you.
Yeah.
You're worried. So knowing like, oh, I'm not my thoughts, but my thoughts are like leading me to like where I need to, hey, you're scared. Like, and that's holy stuff, like that's really sacred. Like, hey, I see you over there,
Yeah.
So that's knowing and finding ways to practice to how to speak that language, the language of all the noise that's in your mind. Like, that's really powerful.
It's so powerful. And I love the way that you broke that down. I have never heard it said in exactly that way. But yes.
Credit to David for some of it.
Credit to Dave, our precious friend David Long. But yeah, so it's and part of it is, and then along the way, the first for me, and it's going to happen in different ways for different people. And what I hear most often from people is, yeah, but it's so hard. My thoughts won't stop. And it's like,
everything's hard at first.
Yeah, I was that way too. I was like, I look at them and I'm like,
it is hard.
I get it. Like, yeah, it's hard. Like,
but it's also really hard to keep living in not knowing, like that's also really, really hard. So you get to choose which shade of hard you want,
Totally. So, and it's a choice in every moment, and lots of moments it's not going to work. And just letting that go and understanding that there's no shame when it doesn't work, because shame is just another tool of the ego to keep us from being efficient. And moving towards our power. And it's not real, actually, even though it feels real. And so then I eventually got to a point, where for me, it was like, oh, I had to discover the detachment from the thought process first. And then once I got so far along that, things would still trigger me. And by triggering, I mean like something would happen in life, and I would feel like intense emotion that felt like I couldn't, where then the thoughts come in and they try to distract you from feeling the emotion. And what I have learned over the years is that that's an opportunity for shadow work. Shadow work, again, demystifying the mystical. Shadow work, fancy terminology, woo-woo terminology for figuring out what is stuck in your unconscious, the subconscious parts of yourself that needs to, quote unquote, woo-woo speak, see the light, come into your conscious awareness, become aware of, so that you can heal. It's an opportunity to heal and not be controlled by your shadow. And so then the work became for me, every time that happened, was to practice telling my thinking mind, thank you for trying to protect me. I don't need protection from this emotion. I'm going to feel it. And then just feeling it and feeling it in my body every time. And I say it like it's simple. In theory, it's simple. In practice, it is hard. It is hard to welcome in and invite in the emotions in their fullness that we have gotten used to our whole lives as a coping mechanism, avoiding, resisting, distracting from, whatever, but to intentionally do the thing that feels that most uncomfortable. And so, over the years, I have been able to, when I talk about getting free, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting free from those things that I'm trying to avoid. And we all do it. We all have blindness. I have, prior to starting to live my life that way and practice that, man, I did lots of things that hurt people. And I did them because I had these blind spots. And, and it levels the playing field when we realize that we all have those. And my goal, I don't know if I was not a mother, I don't know that I would have had the resolve to do the work. And that's just me.
Yeah.
Other people have to have it for other reasons. That is my reason, was like, I need to get myself free so that I don't harm them anymore from my blind spots.
Yep.
And so, yeah, so I know this is a huge tangent, but I think it's an important one, so the things that I do when I feel nervous is I move in the direction of what I'm afraid of. Like today, I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of talking about this astrology, and I'm just going to be honest about that. But I also know that what I'm afraid of is what I'm supposed to move forward towards. I asked you, my dear friend Lyndsy, to be here with me, and that helps me move forward, into what I really do believe is something that I'm meant to provide. And then, just practical things, alternate nostril breathing. That's a practice that, 3 minutes of it shifts you from fight or flight into rest and restore, shifts your nervous system from sympathetic activation to parasympathetic activation. I'm really fortunate that I have these tools that can bring that calm to my body when it feels overwhelmed. And
another nice quick one that I just recently learned was when looking at something close up and then far away, close up and then far away. That helps reactivate the brain. And then also just looking straight up, just something you can do real quick without looking completely crazy. Just looking straight up. And then if you can, putting your head down in between your legs, obviously splashing your face with water switches your body into your brain into a different thinking pattern. So there's a lot of nice little things that we can do instead of running away from the discomfort and pain. There's a lot of little tiny things that we can do to help just, mother ourselves and love on ourselves and do these hard things.
And the thing is that it's like trial and error, because the same thing isn't going to work for everybody, different strokes, different systems. I offer the system of astrology because it's been so powerful for me, and I've used it as a tool in a way that has been, empirically powerful for other people. And I also offer Kundalini yoga for the same reason. But that's not going to be everybody's path. And what I do know more than anything is that we've got to get collectively to a point where we don't see everybody else through our own lens, and understand that different things are going to be the right path for different people. And the mothering thing that you talk about, ultimately that's a different way of saying we are more connected to our soul self, and we mother our ego.
Obviously, if I'm like a grown man, maybe mothering wouldn't be. So I wonder, everybody's going to have their own way of saying that, like nurturing, cultivating, taking care of, and some people, it doesn't matter what you call it, just taking time to love on yourself and recognize, oh, hey, I need a little extra TLC here.
Yep.
I'm going to go in and hold this part of me and
Yeah,
see it and give it space, like a child throwing a temper tantrum. I
totally.
always go back to
Ego
the
is like,
mother.
it's like it is the child
Yeah.
of our spirit, or of our soul. And
Mm-hmm.
um and it's the identifying with it that so strongly that causes, that it is one of the things that causes so much fear and anxiety
Yeah, adding it
and
to, I
suffering.
think you were the first one that told me eye in the sky, the rest is the weather. That the first time you said it, it didn't make sense. The second, when I needed to hear it, it made sense. But the not adding it to the story, like there will be times, and this is why I love you doing these readings, and we should probably get to that. But last thing I want to say is there will be times where I'm just in this frenzy and it seems to me that I'm just so out of control or so reactive or so, and I'm just like, what in the world? And I start adding it to my story and I'm like, well, I clearly am this thing, or I'm clearly, I add it to my story of who I am and I start identifying with it because I'm just so in the busy of the day and in whatever it is, the thunderstorm, and I'm way out at sea and the waters are wild and I'm just like, yep, this is my life, this is who I am. And I love it. I've told Danielle this. I will go and I will listen to your little updates, and I am not alone here. There are many other women and friends, and that's why I'm showing up here. And it's a little lighthouse, like, oh, there it is, there's the shore. Oh wait, this isn't my story, this is just my body trying to get back home to itself. This is my body saying, hey, we've drifted way too far, I need you to see me, I need you to align with your purpose, with, and you need to know that right now it is totally not, and I'm not blaming it on the stars, right? But it helps me know that I don't need to add it to my story, that I'm not bonkers, that I'm not crazy, that I'm not, it's my body going through an evolution and feeling something that clearly I'm not alone here. It aligns my nervous system and it helps regulate my nervous system and saying, hey, it's okay. It's okay to be here. There's the lighthouse when you're ready. Be out here in this storm and feel it and its discomfort. And when you're ready, there's this, it's been a lighthouse for me. So, and I know that I'm not alone here. So
That's
it's very
great.
important. It's so important that you're being brave and doing this because I know it's a medicinal salve for a lot of women that mean a lot to me and myself. So thanks for being brave.
Well, thank you for the encouragement. Um, as you know, as a fellow uh, person with Libra stellium, we tend to, depending on the placement, but you and I both have our sun in Libra, and various other um, aspects of our psyche are filtered through a Libra lens. And
Mm-hmm.
that Libra lens causes an internal pressure to please the other. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I get that affirmation and that confirmation, that is a salve to me. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's a sticky thing because it's like, okay, I recognize that I have that's why it's helpful, right? It's like, oh, okay, I see that I have the sun, Pluto, North Node, Mercury, all in Libra, and so there's this pressure. There all of these, you know, as above, so below. These correlates, not causal, but correlates of the astrological weather, and then
Mm-hmm.
the natal chart, the birth chart. Um,
Yeah.
there's that filter, so it makes me realize why I feel that that I'm not crazy. There's nothing wrong with me. My creative energy is oriented towards finding harmony and balance with other people. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why I have that pressure. And then to understand that there are shadow sides of that. And the shadow side becomes being a people pleaser to the point where I don't stand up for myself. And
Mm-hmm.
so you find, the astrological chart is a series of polarities. And the goal is to find the balance between the polarities. And so, hey, I have that much Libra. I probably really need to remember my Aries sometimes. And then that will bring me more in balance. So,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Mary Moore always says, I'm a recovering people pleaser. I love it so much. And another thing, because I love our ladies, Courtney Kuhn said to me, she was like, it's okay. Like if you're full of rage or if you're mad, you call me. And I needed to hear this as a human, as a Libra who does not like bothering people with uncomfortable things. These words felt so good. Your anger and your rage are holy. That's you trying to protect yourself. And I was like, oh, but that's something I've been trying to hide my whole life. Like, but it's holy. That's
Mhm.
me sticking up for myself. That's me saying,
Yeah.
oh, hell no.
Yeah.
And it felt freaking good to be like, oh yeah,
Hmm.
I'm going to break shit today in a nice way, but I'm going to break shit today. Okay. Because it's not working. The shit that's not working is getting broke.
Yeah.
So,
And the thing is that we're all different. So
mhm,
that is why another reason that I love the astrological practice so much is that
mhm,
I understand it makes me able to really see how different people are so different.
mhm,
Their psyche is different, and we are not meant to understand exactly what it feels like to be another person. We are meant to enable them to have the freedom to define themselves in ways that are not harmful to others,
mhm.
right? And it's so funny that you say hidden. Oh, that was hidden inside of me. And guess what's hidden inside of your 12th house? The 12th house, the things of hidden is Aries. Aries is hidden inside of Lyndsy Rae's 12th house astrologically. And so the correlatives are just undeniable. I have studied so many systems over the course of my life. I have been a rabid seeker of truth and knowledge. And I have taken what has given me empirical evidence and I have swept away everything that has been dogmatic that I have researched. And I started researching metaphysical things and philosophical things and psychological things ravenously when I was 10 years old. And so, this is something that is I proves itself to me over and over and over and over and over and over and over again in practice.
Mhm.
So
I've been
that being
witness.
said, let's dig into the astrology. Oh, one last thing before we dig into the astrology. Two things I'm offering that I just want to say really quick. I am teaching astrology. I'm teaching it in person and it's in Fort Wayne, Indiana. This is going to be done over the course of 3 long weekend trainings. If you're interested in it, I apologize. Next weekend, the 15th and the 16th, I think it is the first weekend intensive workshop. It's here in Fort Wayne. You can get information about it on dnaempowerment.com. It's going to be, it's like an astrology 101 sort of thing, but it's how to read your natal chart, basically. And it is the story. The first weekend is focused on the story of the ego. So it's going to focus on the natal chart, moon through Saturn placements and where they show up in the chart and how to understand the signs and how to understand the placements and all of that. And then the next couple of weekends are like 3 or 4 months between them each. So there's that. Also, and I may eventually do it as an online offering. I'm hoping to. But if you're interested, sign up. And then I am doing for the month of November because it's such an astrologically hard month, and we're all feeling that correlative in our lives collectively and individually. I am offering a special on readings that is just for the month of November at a significant discount on what I normally do. My readings are done over Zoom so that you get a recording of it. It's a 40-minute reading. This is not a birth chart reading. This is not a year ahead reading. This is 40 minutes. What are you struggling with right now? Let's look at the astrology and see how it's speaking to your current struggles. And so, yeah, so that's also available on my website. So, all that being said, let's dig into the astrology. So I have, if I'm looking over here, my lovely husband bought me a Dell computer so that I could have, maybe it's an HP computer. Anyway, I don't know. Anyway, so that I can have the chart over here and be on Zoom over here, because he is a magician in my life and precious. And so anyway, so if I'm looking over here, I'm looking at the chart. So we're going to start with tomorrow, which is Saturday, the 9th, and we're going to move through next Friday, which is November 15th, 2024. And next Friday, we have a big full moon. So we're going to start with what's going on tomorrow on Saturday. And you guys who are listening, you'll actually be listening to it hopefully on Saturday, because that's when it's going to be released. So today, Saturday, even though we're recording on Friday. So the first thing that we have is we have the first quarter, in the lunar cycle, we have a first quarter square, our first quarter square of the lunar cycle. And let me pick that apart just a little bit. So this is happening on November 9th at 12:56 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, New York City time. And so if you're listening from somewhere else, you've got to check that for your own time zone. When we have a new moon, the sun and the moon come together and they kiss. And that is when we plant the seed for an intention for that lunar cycle. And the lunar cycle is the moon, which is our ego, our person in this life. It's the lunar cycle is the journey month to month of that ego personality, okay, through that month, as it works with the sun, which is our deeper awareness, our conscious awareness, and it's the dance that they do with each other.
Conscious awareness or subconscious awareness?
Conscious awareness. Sun, conscious awareness.
Learning here too.
Yep, conscious awareness.
Okay.
Moon, ego. And sun is also creative energy. So it's how the moon is reflecting our creative potential, which is the sun, okay? And so the lunar cycle is the dance that they do together, and it's how creation works. You need both. You need the sun, the masculine, the creative energy, the awareness, and then you need the moon, which is the feminine, and it's the receptive, and it is our body. It is us here in this life, the glue that holds our divinity, the sun, to matter, the material here, okay? So when the new moon happens, and this month it happened on November 1st in Scorpio, as it does, Scorpio season every year on some day in Scorpio, we had this really intense new moon that was in that new moon chart. We had the two rulers of Scorpio, which are Mars and Pluto, and they were in an opposition to each other, an exact opposition in that new moon chart. Which, I have videos out about that new moon. You can watch those on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. As we move forward, we'll be doing that via this platform also. But that new moon having that opposition in that chart, astrologers knew that this month was going to be wild and warlike. And because that was the seed that was planted for this whole lunar cycle of the moon dancing with the sun. And so whatever seeds were planted, when we plant an intention on the new moon, that is a seed that's going into the dirt. And it's us saying, I'm going to plant an intention about Scorpio things. And what are Scorpio things? Those are me coming into my own power in some way, me coming into my own power through an ability to show up vulnerably with my own self, with my own deep self, and also with others. And Scorpio wants intimacy, and Scorpio is about shared resources, and shared resources are a lot of different things, right? And so we plant the seed of the new moon, and then when the first quarter moon comes, that's the point when the seed has to die in order for the plant to shoot up. And so there's a crisis. First quarter moon is a crisis. So that's the first thing that I'm going to say, November 9th, and we're feeling it November 8th, is the crisis, that first crisis. We plant a seed, we do a ritual. The ritual that we do, ritual speaks to our subconscious. That's a planting of the seed. The subconscious is the dirt, the dark, okay? We plant the seed, we do a ritual, and And then what has to happen? And this is the thing that I love to talk about with manifestation. With manifestation, if we want to manifest things, that means we want something different than what is. And we cannot have something different than what is if we don't change something about our current behavior. So we plant the seed in the subconscious, and then we get this opportunity, which is also a crisis. Crisis is opportunity. They are one and the same. To have that first sprout come up. But what does it feel like? It's a first quarter square. First quarter square feels like the seed is dying. Something's dying. Okay? That's happening on the 9th. Sun is in Scorpio, moon is in Aquarius. Why are those energies uncomfortable with each other? What did I say about Scorpio? Our creative energy, our creative expression, our awareness when the sun is in Scorpio is oriented towards intensity, towards connection with the other in a real vulnerable kind of way, baring our underbelly to the other person in a way that feels scary, right? That's where the sun's focus is. And then the moon is in Aquarius, and the moon in Aquarius says, Aquarius energy says, I need detachment. So this first quarter square means we need to both honor, we need to somehow integrate this desire for intensity, vulnerability, intimacy with a healthy detachment from identifying fully with it. That's the opportunity. So you can plant all the seeds in the subconscious that you want of intentions, but if you're not going to change when you get the opportunity to at the first quarter square, and that just means do something differently than you typically do, you won't manifest. You just won't. Things won't change. You will get more of the same. So that's our first quarter moon on the 9th. The other thing that's happening this day, and we're also feeling this right now, is that Venus is in a square to Neptune. And Venus in a square to Neptune, again, squares are tension because they are a square. A square has to do with, and this is a closing square, So Venus is in Sagittarius, and in a closing square, we are rectifying the structures that we have in our life with our freedom. And we're dissolving structures. We're needing to dissolve structures in order to plant a new seed of freedom when the next conjunction comes. So when those two things meet, when Venus comes around and meets Neptune. So in this square, this is what it feels like. Venus square Neptune, first of all, our self-worth can feel awful. We can feel body dysmorphia. We can feel just really, really sad. Venus is in Sagittarius, and Venus in Sagittarius means our value system and our basic values and needs is oriented towards a specific higher truth that we believe is our truth. And then Neptune in Pisces is saying, but compassion and empathy, and let's dissolve the barriers, and let's embrace everybody, and let's offer forgiveness. And so those two things are hard to rectify. And yet we're feeling on the 9th, not only that new moon tension, friction, but also this Venus Neptune. It also is very confusing. Anytime anything touches Neptune, it gets confusing. And so we will feel like our values are confusing. And what do I really feel? And, what even is a basic need? I don't know, that can get all confusing. So, my suggestion is, as it is generally most of the time anyway, is just to be patient, because it's not a time to reach for answers. It's a time to be with the confusion and nurture. Venus square Neptune, nurture, anytime anything is interacting with Neptune, be really, really, really careful about mind-altering drug use or any kind of drug use that is, we can tend towards abusing drugs to dissociate when Neptune is involved. So I'm going to say that. Any questions about any of that, Linz?
No, I'm following so far.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's, again, for me, I don't want anybody to think that I'm totally like, okay, so squares are tension. I don't know that. Like, I literally am like jotting down because it's meaningful to me. So, and I want to learn. So just anybody listening, don't think that I'm over here like, oh yeah, I know what squares mean, or I know that Pluto, and I don't. But I'm able to listen with a curious mind and, take note. And the more I hear these things, just like with learning a new language, the more that you hear it and use it, you have to use something 7 times. They've done studies before it actually solidifies. Again, for most people. But yeah, I'm able to follow along. I don't have any questions. I'm able to, listen and feel what you're, the core of what you're saying. So yeah, carry on. I'm enjoying.
Awesome. I think, yeah, that's the last thing I want to say about the ninth. The next transit that I want to talk about is on November 11th. Did I write down? Anyway, on November 11th, there's a yod happening. And astrologically, a yod is when there's a sextile between two planets. And that sextile is between Jupiter in Gemini and Chiron in Aries. And
a
then
sextile is
60 degrees.
okay.
Geometry 60 degrees. And then there is an in conjunct relationship, which means, so you're probably not looking for the geometry. You're probably looking for the meaning of a sextile. A sextile is a stimulating energy. It's a stimulating energy. So that means that if two planets are in relationship, in a sextile relationship, first of all, it's not a hard relationship. It's stimulating. And it means that if you put any action into the energies that these planets are encouraging, there's a lot of movement potential. Like there's a lot of, one will stimulate the other.
Okay.
So, and then we have the sun in Scorpio is in an inconjunct relationship to both of those planets, and that forms a yod. And an inconjunct is an adjusting relationship. So that one is slightly uncomfortable, can be more than slightly uncomfortable if you have anything around 19 degrees in your personal chart. So that's the other thing, is that not everybody is going to feel all of this, but certainly there will be people around you that are feeling these things. It just depends on, just because you're a Scorpio doesn't mean that you're going to feel the yod. If you are a Scorpio and you have a Scorpio sun at 1 degree of Scorpio, this is happening at 19 degrees Scorpio. You're not going to feel it, even though it's in Scorpio. Not barely. You may barely feel it. So that's why, getting a reading and learning astrology yourself is so important, right? So anyway, what happens is both of those planets that are in a sextile are forcing an adjustment to the planet that's at the apex, which is the sun. And Jupiter in Gemini, Jupiter is uncomfortable in Gemini. It's in its fall, it's considered its fall in Gemini. And that is because Jupiter is like a higher truth. It's this, what is our higher truth? What is the truth that we're passionate about? And Gemini is like, I want all the information. I want all the ideas, all the thoughts, all the things. And so Jupiter in Gemini can either be very scattered sense of personal truth, or it can be a space where, in its highest function, we are able to incorporate a place within the structure of how we formulate higher truth that includes different people able to have different truths that seem to not make sense with each other. Okay. And then Chiron and Aries. Chiron in Aries is a wounding around Mars things, a wounding around assertion and fighting and bravery. And it can show up as either an too much Aries, too much Mars, where we're attacking all the time, attacking, projecting, right? Or it can show up as we are unable to stand up for ourselves and express our truth. Oftentimes, it comes forth as an inability to express our truth without projecting and being mad at someone else, without pointing the finger and saying it's their fault. So we're seeing that all over the place, yes?
Mm.
So this yod is pointing into Scorpio, causing that Scorpio sun to need to adjust what is normal for it. And what is normal for the Scorpio sun is intensity, and it psychoanalyzes everything. It wants to pick everything apart and be the detective and all of that. The answer, the solution in this energy, if we're on the 11th, is to look at the exact polarity of that Scorpio sun. And that means that if it's a 19 degrees Scorpio, the answer, the polarity, the way to move through it is 19 degrees Taurus. And Taurus is come back into our bodies. Bring our awareness out of that over psychoanalyzing Scorpio energy and shift into Taurus, which is going to be really helpful when we get to the end of the week to the full moon, because that's a full moon in Taurus. And it's simplicity. Taurus is simplicity. And so, yeah, we're going to feel our minds are going to go crazy. Our minds are going to go nuts. We're going to be noticing people all around us, as we already are, right?
I was just going to say, I'm like,
in this sextile stimulating with Chiron's in Aries.
So
It's, by the way, it's the United States Chiron return. So Chiron in Aries, the United States has Chiron in Aries in the chart of 1776 Declaration of Independence. And we
Wait,
are.
So what about the Declaration of Independence, 1776? I missed that part. That moved fast.
So the United States' natal chart.
Yeah. Birth chart in
Birth chart.
1776.
Has
when the
Chiron
Declaration of Independence was written.
So
okay.
This year we are going through both the United States Chiron return and its first Pluto return, which we're almost through now. And by the way, when France, for example, had its Pluto return, that was the French Revolution. So, so the United States Chiron and Aries, you know, that's Chiron is your deepest wound. Our deepest wound is in aggression. And that energy influences all of us, each of us, whether we realize it or not. And only seeing, you know, Aries. So no sign is good or bad. That's the main thing that I want to put across. However, all signs have their blind spots if we don't balance them with the polarity. So Aries, what's beautiful about Aries? Aries is the brave hero that goes first. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to have that person who's able to go first and do the thing that no one has ever done before. It's the thing that Aries energy allows us to follow our impulses as they arise. And excitement, you know, and bravery. And it enables us to do things that we're scared of. Because come on, guys, you cannot be brave when you're not scared. The two have to go hand in hand. They have to go hand in hand. But the shadow, too much Aries. Aries has a tendency to not see the other side. It's very focused on it's that it's the veil through which the Aries lens. It's a pressure inside that just is constantly focused on what's my impulse? What's my impulse? Mm-hmm. My impulse? What's my impulse? Right?
I grew up, my childhood best friend for many years was in Aries, and as a sweet little Libra, I was like, oh, where are we going? What are we doing? how's this work? Oh my gosh. I was just so like, whoa, this person is like a fire I want to jump into. And it
Yeah, it's crazy because,
the balance.
also sweet little Libra. But honestly, here's the thing. We are more our moon than we are our sun. But you and I both have lots of Libra energy, regardless of the fact that that's our, I think your moon is also in Libra.
A lot of Libra. Yeah.
Anyway, uh, I grew up with both my parents were Aries.
We find our Aries.
Oh my God. And so many people, especially earlier in my life, have been Aries. And we really do things that we're not able to see in ourselves show up outside of us as other
Mhm.
people. And we are all so very connected in ways that we can't even fathom. We feel like we're separate, and it's we
The
are
collective
not
conscious
all at
is
the
so
same
real.
time. Yeah, we
Yeah.
are not, we're separate while we're in these bodies,
Hmm.
but we are also intricately bound with each other.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel that so big. I won't go into the details of all of it, but I was all the way on the other side of the planet in Saudi Arabia, away from my kids, and I didn't miss them once because I knew that time was an illusion. I could just go right to their love. And again, I was in a space where I knew that they were safe, all of those things, but I was able to access it. Just like everybody knows my love story with my sweet grandpa, precious man. I don't miss him. He's everywhere. Paris, I'll walk the streets of Paris any old time. I mean, I am Paris. I am grandpa. I am my children. There's no distance. It's all fake. And I like this. My love can reach them. My love
Mind,
can reach my
mind
husband.
is such a powerful thing, right? It's really whatever
Yeah.
we think about the most becomes our reality. And
Hmm.
whatever we think about the most with um, emotion behind it does become our reality in many ways. Not our only reality, but
Yeah.
it's part of our reality,
Yeah.
right? Um and that's beautiful. And I feel similarly. I think you know that with my grandparents and various other things. It's there's no reason to have the ego attached because we are attached in a more deep way.
It's
And
true.
so anyway, as we move forward into the week, um, I was, Venus does ingress into Capricorn on that same day on November 11th. And so Venus moving from Sagittarius into Capricorn means we are moving our values. So Venus is our the aspect of our psyche that has to do with what we value and our basic needs, and also our self-worth and our relationships. And so Venus has been in Sagittarius. It's in Sagittarius right now. And in Sagittarius, all those things, our finances, our money, our self-worth, our value system is all oriented towards what's our truth. Sagittarius, what's our truth? What's our highest truth? What do we believe? What's our belief system? What's our structure? And that is informing our relationships and our um, self-worth and how we spend our money and all these things while Venus is in Sagittarius. When it ingresses into Capricorn, suddenly all those things are going to become more grounded, and we're going to say, okay, we've got to work hard at self-worth. We've got to work hard at our relationships. We've got to do things that are disciplined when it comes to money and resources and our skills. So that's that ingress, and it'll be there for about 3 weeks. And then on November 12th, I got to look at my notes.
It's a lot to remember.
I'll tell you what, actually, I'm gonna push this forward a day so that I can actually look at the chart. Um, Mercury, Mercury is square Saturn. So I lied about the ingress. The ingress happens on the 12th, but it happens after this square happens. So Mercury will still be in Sagittarius on the 12th when this square happens, when it's exact. It's at 8:30 a.m. at 12 degrees 42 minutes of Mercury in Sagittarius and Saturn in Pisces. And again, when I talk about a square, it feels, something feels unsafe. Something feels like something is challenging our sense of security. And Mercury square Saturn has to do with, Mercury is our perception. It's the way we think, it's the way we perceive, it's the lens through which we perceive. And it is also has to do with the way that we communicate. And Mercury in Sagittarius, again, is, as I just said, has to do with our perception being through the lens of what is our truth, our perception being through the lens of what we believe to be even hopeful, you know. And that's in a square aspect with Saturn. And Saturn is discipline, and it is structure, and it is, what do we have to work hard at? And Saturn has been in Pisces for a really long time. Saturn, I also did a video on this, is at the same degree of Pisces this entire month, because it's stationing to go direct this week. And when it stations, when a planet stations, it is at its strongest. And so we are feeling restriction the strongest the entire month of November, especially around the full moon, which comes on Friday. And so our conscious perception, our communication is focused on truth. And Saturn over here in Pisces is saying, but you've got to work hard at being compassionate, Pisces. You've got to work hard at having empathy, Pisces. Now, what makes us have to work hard at those things? Who is it hard to have compassion for? The people that we agree with? Honestly, you know, I mean, so that's it. It's like Saturn is saying, hey, I'm saying you have to work hard at being compassionate. That means you have to have compassion for the people that you don't agree with.
And also, I'm thinking the versions, so is the outside, you know, the people that we don't agree with, but also like I'm thinking of like the wounded versions of ourselves that are like inside of our body, like, I'm telling you, you know, I can already hear all the people at the round table of my mind, like, well, I feel unsafe because, and I'm like, I thought we talked about this. You're back again. You're seriously here again. I've kicked you out of the round table. I have other people. It's like you know, like there's like this war inside. Now I'm just not thinking of me right now, but other people. I'm like, it's like these in there again. All of these things are, whether we're fighting with the other or little versions of ourselves, or maybe it's your mother who's at the round table of your mind. It's like these things, as much as we like are mad and we want to make them go, there's little truths to them. So it's again like,
Yeah.
I'm imagining listening with balance. It's like, hey, you're really angry at that person because you feel like they're disrespecting you, or like you disrespected your own self, like they gaslit you or I gaslit my own self. Like, let's just, you know, taking that time to listen with compassion and be like, hey, I get that you're really angry at, whether it's in or out, but like, you know, I hear you. Like, and you know, I think that that's something that I felt free when I learned, like, just it's okay to be mad and angry, but like, and give that time. How, you know, do you need a day? Do you need a week? When you're ready, you know, that's when it feels best. If for the longest time, I've been gaslighting myself, like, no, you know, the whole good vibes only thing. Oh, I'm totally guilty of that was my surviving. That's how I survived.
You and me
But
both.
you know, feeling those things and making space, like, and like you said,
But
just
also separating
with
the
it.
feeling from our thoughts about them.
Yeah.
Is important, because really the thoughts are distracting us from fully feeling. Whether it's thoughts about the storyline of why we're mad, or whether it's thoughts about the fact that we shouldn't be mad, regardless,
Yeah.
it distracts us from just feeling the anger.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you're spot on. And the thing is that in a square, the thing that I know is when in two aspects of our psyche, which is correlates to these planetary placements, are in an aspect with each other, that means we are meant to figure out a way to do them both at the same time. That means, can we hold our truth? Mercury in Sagittarius. And also hold compassion and empathy for those that it's hardest to hold it for at the same time. How do we do that?
I want to pluck that thread right now. You guys see that thread between the two of them?
Yeah.
That's the like, and that's why I am so blessed. I have a lot of people in my life that when I'm going off the rails and I'm like, feeling like a cowgirl, like, oh hell no, I'm gonna, because that happens. But I have people in my life that are like, hey Lyndsy, like, remember the oneness of being a human being, that the feeling that you feel, I felt it when I was like holding a warm hand that went cold, watching somebody pass on, or seeing like this little nothing baby get placed onto my chest. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, like, I don't care what you are, who you are, just that hum, and allowing ourselves to feel the hum in a person that we think we don't love or like, or a version of ourselves that we don't like or love, feeling that hum and that warmth. Like, I could cry. Like, there's a tiny version of all of us, the ugly parts of us, the beautiful ones, and it's that same hum of life and that rhythm and that noise. It's the same seed. It's the same, like, rivers aren't trying to flow to appease themselves. Trees aren't growing to eat their own fruit. Like, it's just life. It's the oneness. It's the in between, the what you were just talking about. It's that. It's the fact that we're just here and alive. Like, what a something to celebrate. And it's hard because we lose focus of that when we get lost in the story and the keeping score, whether it's inside or outside, like.
And it's really just, honestly, it's again, it's not that the story is bad.
Yeah, true.
It's that
True. The story is trying to help us.
Too much story all on its own is an imbalance.
Mhm.
And we're reaching for center. We're reaching for center. And why do people, and why do people have this desire to attach to a truth? It's because it makes them feel safe. And so to loosen the grip on it feels very unsafe. And when I'm talking about truth, I'm talking about Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is the higher truth within all of us, how it shows up within all of us. And Neptune is transcendence. It's transcendence. And that's why when Neptune is interacting with our conscious mind, our perceptive mind, first of all, yeah, we're going to be really confused. It's going to be really confusing because if we transcend, we can't make things linear, And also, it's dangerous to do drugs because we have this internal pressure to transcend, and oftentimes we go to bliss out with some sort of mind-altering substance, which again, maybe it's not bad, but during a time like this, we're already going to be too fragile to do it. Excellent time for meditation, for any kind of yogic practice, because we can take our conscious perception, our mind, our thinking mind, and we can fuse it with spirit, Neptune, Pisces, right? Pisces, Saturn and Pisces. Put your discipline into your practice. Saturn, Pisces, discipline, Saturn into Pisces, your spiritual practice. And then it gets easier. And then, you show up on the mat, you show up wherever your practice is, you do the deep breathing, you do the things that bring you to your center. You don't have to think about it, you just do it. And it's hard when you show up, it's hard while you're doing it. And then afterwards, suddenly, you don't feel so awful, so anyway, so that's Saturn square, or let's say Mercury square Saturn with Venus in Capricorn. Yeah. Only a couple more things to talk about. This is a long one. And it's also because it's our first one and we were doing introductions and stuff. So yeah, just to keep that in mind. So the last thing that I want to talk about is November 15th. And November 15th, two significant things are happening. Saturn is going to be stationing to turn direct. Saturn has been retrograde since June. And so we really, in our work world, it's been hard to feel like anything is moving forward because Saturn literally signifies work and it's been going backwards. Now, I have to say this for all those people out there who's like, planets don't go backwards. It's from a geocentric perspective, right? I know that planets don't go backwards. So if we were to look at Saturn from the Earth geocentric perspective, it appears as though in observation that Saturn is moving backwards. It's not. But because observation is so important to reality, the observable appearance matters. So Saturn stations direct. We're going to feel that it's strongest while it's stationing. Once we get into December, we will feel more forward movement with the things that we're doing in our work life, in the foundation that we're laying, wherever we happen to have Pisces in our chart. Saturn in Pisces is building a new foundation of what is our biggest dream. What is our biggest dream for the future? Building a new foundation in empathy and compassion and forgiveness and connectedness. And we build that new foundation by doing really, really, really hard work. Now, I have Pisces in Saturn in Pisces in my 7th house of partnerships. So I'm working really hard. I'm having to work really hard on partnerships of all kinds in my life right now. Lots of people are going to have Saturn in other areas of their life. So again, I would like to bring it back to, some of these things are universal, but they're all going to have variance depending on where we have Pisces in our chart. And if we have anything at 12 degrees in our chart, because Saturn is stationing at 12 degrees. So people that have mutable planets, any planet in around 12 degrees, oh my God, November is just going to feel like so awful. But if somebody has a mutable planet that, what do I have? I have Venus is in Virgo at 26 degrees. Virgo is mutable. The mutable signs are Sagittarius, Virgo, Gemini, Pisces. I'm not feeling Saturn station all that much because that's my mutable planet, and it's 26 and 12 are so far off from each other that it's not a crisis situation for me. I have a friend who has a moon at 12 degrees Virgo, and my God, she's been sick.
That's another thing that was really helpful. You did a reading for me at one point and you're like I was just like, what's wrong with my body? Is it something I'm eating? Little things like that. It's just been so helpful to know, because I'm like, I don't get it. I've been eating well. I've been eating like doing so good. And it's like, oh, okay. It just helps me show myself some grace, because I'm like, buddy, you were doing a good job. Like, you just lay low.
Sometimes the body is just releasing stuff that's been stuck. And like me this week, I went to the ER because of passing something potentially from my kidneys, insane pain, agonizing pain, UTI, maybe TMI, but you know what? I don't care. I got a Scorpio moon, peeing lots of blood, on Monday night or Tuesday morning at 1:45 a.m. And you know what? I knew something was coming for me because the lunar nodes, the nodes of the moon, were squaring my Jupiter. This happens once every 18 and a half years. And the Jupiter is a significant point in my chart because it's a skipped step between my nodal axis. That's all a whole different thing. But that South Node in Libra needed to release stuff that has been stored in my body. And Libra is the urinary tract. It rules the kidneys. It rules the bladder. And so here I sit with a urinary tract infection, And I know that it doesn't mean I've done anything wrong, that it means I have been doing the work and my body is releasing.
Mhm. And we
Uh,
don't always like the way that that looks.
no, because it's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but
That's
thank God
gross.
I'd rather it leave me.
Yeah. I have my 8-year-old wakes up at least a few times a week with growing pains and is just like, oh, it hurts so bad. And I'm like watching this tiny body grow and I'm checking it. He's getting taller on this thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that it like this makes sense to
Mhm.
my brain because I'm like, oh yeah, there's, getting taller, growing, like it's linear. But like when it's happening like this, I'm like, oh wait, hold on, what? So
Because the old form has to die
yeah,
in order for growth to happen. I know
yeah,
we're getting close, right?
yeah. Love you.
So I'm going to talk about the full moon and then we're going to go.
Okay.
We're going to try to not make these 2 hours every week. Full moon, November 15th at 4:27 p.m. Again, that is part of the lunar cycle that I started out talking about. The full moon is the culmination, the manifestation point of that lunar cycle where the sun is still in Scorpio and the moon is in Taurus, and they are at 24 degrees 0 minutes, either both of them pulling focus from each other, fully reflecting each other. It's a letting go. It's a coming to fruition of whatever we planted at that new moon. And in Taurus, this one is conjunct Uranus. So in Taurus, this has to do with money. It has to do with our values. It has to do with our basic needs and our skills. And Taurus can feel stuck. And so change is hard for Taurus energy. This one's conjunct Uranus. Uranus is change. Uranus can be shocking change. So we can expect to see some shocking things that have to do with money, finances, value systems, all those things. Depending on if you have something in a fixed sign around 24 degrees, you might want to take this day off of work if you can. You might want to plan some excellent self care. This is also in a sextile to Neptune. And so, whatever this change is, we have the opportunity here to really evolve. Like Uranus is evolution, it's coming up with something new. And in a sextile to Neptune, that newness has to do with our ability to access a greater compassion and a greater empathy and a greater forgiveness, right? Again, it's going to feel hard for anybody who has um, any placements. By any placements, I don't just mean the pop astrology, big three of sun, moon, ascendant. I mean anything around 24 degrees of a fixed sign. That is Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. Um, and so, yeah, we're reaching to balance during a full moon our desire for intensity. And it's a sexy, I mean, it's a really sexy full moon because Taurus is sensuality and Scorpio is sex. And so anytime we have a Taurus full moon or a Scorpio full moon, whoever you're having sex with, whether it's yourself or someone else or multiple people, uh, it's an excellent time to play. And especially with Uranus involved, make it kinky. So
Uh,
I'll leave it on a lighter note. How about that?
I
Compassion,
think no, I think now
empathy,
is great.
kink.
This is awesome. This is the grand finale. See you later, guys. What more could you have to say that could like that was the peak. That was the climax. That was the orgasm.
That was the oh, that was kind of a disappointing orgasm.
No.
Anyway,
Hey, I thought it was
not for
great.
kids. Anyway,
Okay, what's the cigarette after? Tell me.
oh my God, the cigarette after is compassion. It's like it's that's that Taurus, like, oh my God, I'm fully in my body and I'm so satisfied.
I'm home.
I'm home. My needs are met. Taurus, you know, accessing sensuality pulls us out of our over psychoanalyzing mind, because it's tantra. It's how are we feeling energies in our body, and not feeling bad about it. You know, we do live in a culture where we feel, you know, it's like pleasure is something to feel guilty about or ashamed
That's
of.
a whole different podcast. We could talk for
Like
months.
Taurus is pleasure. I mean, your ascendant is in Taurus, and you are pleasure filled, and you know, I mean, you just, yeah. So
Yeah, it's
it's
true.
also the natural world. So it's another time, you know, a Taurus full moon, excellent time to get out with animals, go pet goats. I'll probably be petting goats, you know, be out in nature, go walk in the woods. It will nourish you. So
Get your feet on the ground.
feet on the ground, move
Do
from
some earthing.
over psychoanalysis into ground, into simplicity, moving away from complexity into simplicity.
And sometimes if I can't get to nature, I just did this with a friend the other day. I was in a really loud room and I just kind of shut my eyes and I plugged my ears a little bit and I just heard the chatter. I was at Henry's, a local spot most of us really enjoy. And you just lightly press on your ears and all that chatter, it just sounds like the river,
Yeah, it's water.
it's like the language of, and it's just like water crashing into rocks, blown, and it's these people sharing their stories. So if you can't get to nature, find the nature within humanity. You know, it's just kind of like when you press on your eyes and you see sparkles. It's like there's that whole Logan shared with me this, like, she's like, download this app and it like flashes lights at you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't not disappear into my brain. It's like, that's what I used to do when I was a kid and I couldn't sleep, but my mom made me lay down and push on your eyes and you see sparkles and you're just so in your head. So it's like, sometimes if you can't get to nature and you have to sit at your desk, just like find the nature inside of, like, we're all made up of nature. Go to the forest inside of the field of humans around you, you know, and then try and get the hell outside. But you know, that's something I do.
So that with the ears and how it sounds like you're underwater, that's the perfect analogy for the sextile to Neptune. Like you have to actually do something for a sextile to make, you know, to take advantage of a sextile. And Neptune is water and it's blurring the lines. It's like blurring, and there you're blurring sound, right? And it feels very Neptunian. And so, yeah, that's a perfect way to do something that acts as a blurring of separation, which is Neptune, Pisces.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun for me.
I love you.
I love you too.
Thanks everybody. If you've listened all this time, we're going to try to be back every week and do this and hopefully not make it quite so long every time, but hey, no promises. So, and I also want to say, if you have questions that you would like to be answered on this podcast, email them to me at Danielle at DNA, the building blocks of life, empowerment.com. Don't ask me questions that are specific to your chart. If you want questions that are specific to your chart, book a reading. But if you have general astrology questions or about anything that we talk about, shoot me your question and we may answer it on the podcast. So,
yeah.
Have a great day. Bye, Lynn.
Bye.